All right, good afternoon, Green Wave fans. Welcome back to episode 5 of the Jimmy O Show. Happy to be with you again. I am here with my FearTheWave colleague and really the brains of behind the operation now that Kelly, that JP has moved on to other interests. Kelly's done a great job with that. Kelly Comarda, welcome back to the Jimmy O Show.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. I wouldn't call myself the brains of anything, but I'll take it.
You're like me, we're just smart enough to be dangerous, I think.
I think so.
We will be back. We expect to be back with a player guest next week. Some life got in the way this week for me, and it was difficult to get a guy. But I am excited if I get who I want next week. I think it'll be a fascinating conversation, someone that everyone is going to enjoy talking to. So let's cover with Kelly. I'm interested in covering a few things for you folks. We've obviously really, I guess it started on Monday. We started hearing about all of the staff changes on the way. And so I really want to kind of dig into some of these football staff changes. Kelly, I guess we'll start with the big one. Everybody's been wondering for 3 months, I think, who's going to be the next offensive coordinator. We have a name now.
Yeah, we do have a name. It's Jim Svoboda, who, I'm sure no Tulane fan had heard of before Tuesday, but Coach Svoboda actually took over for Coach Fritz at Central Missouri and has been there for 12 seasons now. I didn't know anything about him, to be honest with you, so I had to go and do some research, and what I found I was incredibly impressed with. So I think Coach Fritz checked off all the boxes he wanted to check at the beginning of this search. Whether or not, this was something that I'm sure was hard for Coach Fritz to do, to take somebody away from his former school. But, I think this is a move that's really going to help Tulane. Coach Svoboda is somebody who's shown an ability to coach at multiple levels and to be successful at multiple levels, and has the ability to provide a balanced attack, which is something that we've really been searching for since Coach Fritz got to Tulane. The ability to pass the ball when we need to pass it, but to really set the tone with our run game. And I think Coach Svoboda is in line with Coach Fritz in that philosophy.
Yeah, we covered, and it was actually in the first episode with Coach Fritz, in the lost portion of the interview, we talked about his coaching background, and he spoke of his, and so none of you know about it, me, but his fondness really for Central Missouri and what it's meant to him. Coach Fritz really sort of put that program on the map, or at least in recent times. It was his second head coaching job after Glenn Community College, and he took them to their first postseason, took them to their first Division II bowl game, and all before moving on. And then Coach Svoboda, if I have the timeline right, Kelly, took over immediately for Coach Fritz when he moved on to Sam Houston. Is that right?
That's right. And Coach Svoboda has a similar background. He started off in Division II. He coached at Northwest Missouri State for a long time, was a coordinator there for many years, and actually won 3 Division II national championships as an offensive coordinator at Northwest Missouri State. He dipped his toe into the FBS waters at UCLA, and in his second year as quarterbacks coach at UCLA was a finalist for the Broyles Award, which is given to the top assistant coach in the country. So he was one of the 3 or 4 finalists for that award in his second year coaching FBS ball. In his third year, he was given the reins of the offense and was the offensive coordinator under Carl Durrell. And to give you a little background, I actually watched a lot of UCLA ball back then because Jesuit running back Chris Marquis was a running back at UCLA at the time. And so I followed his career. I called his games on the radio when he was at Jesuit. So I watched him a lot in college and saw that offense. That was not Coach Svoboda's offense. He was put in as offensive coordinator to run Coach Durrell's offense. And he was unceremoniously fired after a year. And it was kind of an interesting off season for UCLA that year. They fired all their offensive coaches kind of in a panic for Coach Durrell to keep his job. Coach Durrell ultimately got fired the next year. So I don't think that was really Coach Svoboda's issue or his, what he wanted to do. Since then, it's been, all guns blazing, bombs away. He's been lighting up scoreboards everywhere. I think in our Fear the Wave piece, we did some statistical analysis, and his average season as an offensive coordinator over the last 5 years, passing offense would be Sean King's 1998 season. So put that into perspective. That's his average year. His better years, his best year, his quarterback threw for over 4,500 yards and 40-something touchdowns. In a bad year, they throw for over 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. So that would be the best season a Tulane quarterback has had in 20-plus years.
That's something. Yeah, and I noticed that one of the things, and I want to get back to something that you had mentioned, but I do want to follow up on that. One of the things that really strike me, deep diving into him, is that despite the fact that, they're 8 to 10, quick screen, wide receiver screens, throws near the line of scrimmage, easy candy for a quarterback type of plays in there, his offenses are still typically average 13, 14, 15 yards per attempt, which is just an absurd number. And so it's sort of a balance of some of that close stuff, but to get that average, you're having to really stretch the field and make some explosive plays downfield in order to end up at that point, don't you?
You do. And if you watch the available game film on YouTube, there's a pretty clear pattern where he sets up defenses and takes shots. He may not always hit the shot, but in every game, there are 8 to 10 shot plays he takes. If he hits 4 or 5 of those, you're talking about, those 4 or 5 plays can account for 200 yards. And just in the film that I saw, there were 3 or 4 other balls that were dropped that could have easily gone for 30, 40, 50 plus yards. So he's going to find matchups he likes. He's going to exploit what the defense is giving him. And he understands that if you spread the field out horizontally, the defense has to kind of show their cards. And if you can do that, you can pick where you can go vertically. And so he's finding single coverage and he's attacking it. And he's giving his quarterbacks the freedom to throw those one-on-one passes. And you can see that they don't hesitate. They find the one-on-one matchups and they throw the ball that way, and they expect their receivers to make plays. And I think that's going to be something you see from Tulane this year, is trusting the wide receivers a little bit more and expecting them to make plays.
Yeah. And one of the guys in our stable is a guy who's made those plays for him. I mean, Shea Wyatt was a Division II All-American in this very offense, and certainly having that carryover to the extent there are changes from what these guys are accustomed to, having somebody who's been through it, who understands the nuance of the offense is going to be a big help.
I think so. I think Shea did a great job last year as a transfer, bumping up a level. Really was our best receiver at times last year. And I think this year with his familiarity with Coach Svoboda, his familiarity with Michael Pratt now will be a really valuable asset to our offense. And I think that the guys we added in Lawrence Keys and McDougal and some of the guys that either redshirted or coming in this year, Bryce Bohannon, I think you're talking about TJ Huggins, and some of the high school guys are really going to benefit from this offense because Coach Svoboda is going to scheme up a lot of easy throws at or near the line of scrimmage to get these receivers used to catching the ball, get them into the game. It's hard to make a catch in the third quarter when the ball hadn't come your way all game. You haven't been hit, so I think that they're going to get into the flow of the game a lot earlier.
Yep. It's great. And I think what we'll see is whether it's bunch sets or combination routes that sort of make the defense work. I mean, one thing that you saw in the national championship game is just how often Alabama and Georgia are trying to force the defenders who are playing some sort of match zone or man coverage to really communicate, and allow their mistakes, essentially create mistakes that you get that space and that one-on-one opportunity that guys wide open has a chance to make a play. It seemed like a lot of times last year we were just basically expecting guys to go out and beat people one-on-one, and maybe our guys aren't as weren't always up for that challenge, or there's a number of things going on, but maybe not the best guys for just winning one-on-one matchups just straight up. But if you can create advantageous situations through formation, through motion, to allow for what ends up being a favorable one-on-one downfield, that's when you're really cooking in today's college offense.
And I think that Coach Fritz mentioned a couple times in your interview with him, it's not just the scheme, it's understanding who your best players are and what they do well. And if you look at Coach Svoboda's track record, you look at a guy like Shea Wyatt, everybody on the field knew Shea Wyatt was getting the ball. They could double, triple team him if they wanted, but Coach Svoboda schemed up plays to take advantage of what Shea Wyatt does the best and to place him in a position to succeed. And every year he had a player that had 60-plus catches for over 1,000 yards and like 12 touchdowns. So he knows how to get the ball in his best player's hands with a chance to make a play. And I think that's something that we struggled with last year.
Yeah, I agree. And one other thing I saw was that, because we do have a nice group of tight ends, he had a tight end with 14, 15 touchdowns here in the last couple of years, somewhere in any single season within the last few years.
He had 40. I'm looking at it right now. 40 catches for 894 yards and 15 touchdowns in a season. That's pretty good. He was 6'7", 250, and he could run. So he was a little bit of a rare breed, but he definitely takes advantages of tight ends. He runs a lot of 2 tight end sets. Yeah. So he's somebody that Tyrek James and Will Wallace and those guys will really like playing for.
Yeah. And so look, the last little point on him is you're always concerned when you see a guy coming up from a lower, I'd say concerned, from outside looking in, you'd be concerned about a guy coming up from a lower level, coming up into a pretty competitive FBS league. I'll cite really 2 examples in my lifetime. Tulane's had some success with this when they have gone into the sub FCS level to pull out a sitting head coach and make them the offensive coordinator. Rich Rodriguez was pretty good here. Was a NAIA head coach at Glenville State when Coach Bowden named him the offensive coordinator. We saw what he did. He more or less helped revolutionize college football. And then the other one is, I guess he wasn't a sitting Division II coach at the time, but Will Hall's primary background was as a head coach at West Alabama, West Georgia, and he only had 1 year of play calling experience at the FBS level when we tabbed him the offensive coordinator. And behind Coach Rod, I'd say he was the most successful offensive coordinator in the last 20 years at Tulane. So we got a pretty good track record there with this sort of hire, and I'm really excited about what Coach Svoboda is going to bring to the table.
I agree. I think there are 2 points I would make to that. The first is, when I was watching Coach Svoboda's film, it looked a lot like Will Hall's film at West Georgia, where you felt like he was playing on a different level than the team he was playing against, just kind of from a scheme perspective. He just seemed much more advanced than the teams he was playing. Second is, and this is totally my opinion, and it's totally conjecture on my part, but when you've got a guy who's been a successful head coach at the D2 level, he's been a successful coordinator at the D2 level, and he was a successful assistant coach at the FBS level, at the highest level, but only got 1 year and kind of a raw deal as offensive coordinator. There's got to be a little bit of a chip on your shoulder to come back and say, you know what, I can do this. And I can do this at the highest level. And I've gotten my chance to be a head coach, and now it's time that I can show myself and show everybody else that, I'm as good of a coach as that Broyles semifinal or finalist. I'm that guy, and I can do this at the highest level. I just need an opportunity.
Yeah, I love that point, and never underestimate the power of that sort of motivation in competitive sports. Looking at the rest of the staff, we had a number of other moves. Let's quickly go through those. We've made moves in special teams department and along the defensive front, and I don't know where Coach Sherman's going to end up, but I think he's an offensive assistant, and we got a new offensive line coach. So let's kind of quickly cover each one of those.
Sure. Well, let's start with offensive line coach first. Jeep Wade, who is our new offensive line coach. and doing a little bit of research on him. Actually found out he was on the staff with Alex Atkins at UT Martin. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a connection there. Coaching is, a very connected profession. It really is a fraternity, and people rely on other people's opinions a lot. And I think that I don't know whether Coach Atkins gave him a recommendation, but I can tell you that he was the first offensive line coach that he learned under. It was Coach Wade. And if I'm looking at his experience, I'm seeing a guy who's been an offensive line coach in a similar system like we want to run. And he was with Georgia Southern last year. He's been a coordinator at UT Martin, but he was at Middle Tennessee and he was at East Carolina and Marshall when they ran these spread offenses, similar to what we're going to run here. So he's familiar with the scheme. He's got some connections to our previous offensive line coach, and I think that he fits in well with what we want to do. Then you look at Robbie Disher, our new special teams coach, actually coached for Coach Fritz at Sam Houston State and has gone on to coach at UL Lafayette. He coached at Georgia this last year. He was recognized as somebody who made a major impact on the Georgia special teams. So Coach Disher comes back and joins Coach Fritz, after a few years away. I think he'll hit the ground running. You know how much Coach Fritz values special teams.
Right.
And I think he's valued special teams so much that Coach Disher is going to be an on-the-field coach, if I'm not mistaken. So he's taking up one of his coaching spots to specifically focus on this. And Coach Disher's the man he tabbed to do that. So that says a lot about him. As far as Coach Sherman's concerned, people might recognize his name. He was an offensive analyst at Tulane in 2016, 2017, Coach Fritz's first 2 years. He coached with Coach Fritz at Georgia Southern for a year, I believe. The last couple of years, he was at Samford he was actually named the offensive coordinator in the COVID season, and then they didn't end up playing. The year before that, he was a wide receivers coach. And last year, he coached wide receivers at Georgia Southern. So Coach Sherman's coming back to Tulane. What his role is going to be, I don't really know yet. But he's a guy who fit in before. He's going to do a good job for us here. He's known to be a very good recruiter. He's a bright young coach in the profession. So it can never hurt to add a guy like that to your coaching staff, regardless of what his role ends up being. And who did I miss? Did I miss Coach Chapman?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Coach Chapman is a guy who was with LSU last year. He's our new defensive line coach. I know that he's been – most of his career has been at the FCS level. However, he's participated in a number of NFL internships and opportunities there. He was with LSU last year. I know that we cast a pretty wide net on trying to find a new defensive line coach that fit, and he's somebody that clearly impressed Coach Fritz. He's coming just right down I-10, and he has a very good reputation within the coaching community from what I hear. So Coach Chapman looks to be another good hire for Coach Fritz. I think we did about as well as you can expect in filling these positions of need.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that really jumps out when you mention, you kind of go guy by guy there, and adding Coach Comarda is, whenever when you're integrating new people into an organization, that there's whatever that may be. In the case of football, you got a scheme fit, right? And so there's a learning curve when a new guy has to come in and have to learn the guy in charge's way of doing things. And so that's always something that takes a little time and some adjustment. But then the bigger one really is a culture fit, and having people come in and understand the culture of the program or if we're a business, the culture of the business. But that takes time. And what I really like about this is that with very limited exception, all of the guys coming in have some connection with Coach Fritz. They understand the way he has done things forever, but yet they've gone out, they've been on their own, they've experienced things outside of his bubble, which is important. They're able to bring in fresh ideas, bring in some fresh attitude to this program, yet they have that baseline. They have that cultural understanding in place so that the learning curve coming into Tulane won't be as steep as if he went out and hired 4 or 5 guys with no connection whatsoever to the program. And so,
Exactly.
I feel good about that part of it.
Yeah, it's year 6, right? I believe for Coach Fritz now, and it's past the time of having to give everybody have that learning curve for what he expects. Somebody coming in needs to kind of understand what he expects already. We're at the point where we're trying to take this from 3 bowls in a row. I kind of throw out 2021. It was just kind of an aberration. So let's say we're starting back at the team that's 6-6, 7-6. We're trying to get to that 9-10 win season, and to do that, you can't be starting over with guys.
Right.
And training them from the beginning. You have to be tweaking things, bringing in those fresh ideas with the guys who understand what's expected of them. So I think that this is a good opportunity for us. We talk about what do you need to do to take it to the next step? Well, sometimes it involves bringing in new ideas from the outside. This might be that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you see it at all levels of football, and no matter how good your system or your ideas are at one point in time, they can get stale. And that's not necessarily what happened at Tulane, but it can happen, and you can become too insular. And it's always good to get fresh ideas about how to better do things. And maybe you don't take all those ideas from that somebody gives you, but if you can get 1-2 pieces from here and 1-2 pieces from there, and really think about how it fits into the bigger picture. And that's the thing about Coach Fritz, is that I just feel like he is someone who has very good judgment in terms of what to bring in, what to maintain, what to keep the same. And look, the sense of urgency is going to be there. I mean, it was apparent from my conversation with him. I think it probably came across. This guy went 2-10 last year and has no intention to ever see that again. and so he won't be easing anybody in. I mean, it's going to be all about hitting the ground running and reversing trends in a dramatic way and getting to heights he hadn't been yet at Tulane. And so that's his goal, and he thinks that these guys will help him achieve it. And look, on paper, it's kind of optimistic. I'm optimistic that he can pull that off.
Yeah, there's nobody I trust on that campus as far as coaches are concerned. Over my lifetime, more than Coach Fritz. I mean, look at the track record he's had. Look at how many games he's won in NCAA play. I mean, if there's anybody who knows what he's doing and you can trust wholeheartedly with something, it's him. So I have no hesitation about the moves he made, and I think they'll all end up working out for us.
Yeah. All right, and let's pivot really quickly to what we're doing to try to help Coach Fritz and his team in the ways that we can. Kelly, can you give us an update? We made our announcement last week about the FTW Collective and the NIL money that we're raising, and I think the announcement had a goal of $100,000 in it. How are we doing in terms of fundraising, and can you give us an update on that?
Sure. So the response has been good. We are a little bit over 20% of our way there. We need everybody to chip in and spread the word, and just know that we're going to be working hard to try to promote the goals that we set out. We want to try to hit that $100,000 number if at all possible. If you know of anybody who owns a business and wants to get involved, if you want to get involved personally, you can go to fearthewave.substack.com or email us at FearTheWave or FTW Booster Club. FTW Booster Club at gmail.com with any questions. We'd be glad to answer them. Some people have reached out to us, and hopefully we've been responsive to their needs. But I'm really excited. We're off to a really good start, but we need to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, out there, you own a business, you're in charge of marketing for a business, or have some say in that, whether business or charity. If you want, and who doesn't want very cheap advertising, because from your standpoint, it won't hit your company's bottom line, but you're a business that wants to have Tulane athletes promote your business, please reach out to us. We would love partners with whom we can line up the players that it's being funded Okay, that's what the donations are for. We have the funding, and we want to pay these guys to promote your businesses, particularly your Tulane aligned businesses. We would love, or at least New Orleans community businesses and charities, things that are a natural fit. We want our guys, our players will be very enthusiastic about being your partner and to promote your business. And it's a great way to really kind of get your name out there for a good reason. And in a way that really doesn't cost you much, because we're not actually asking you to pay them for the advertising. We have that part covered. We just need partners that we can use to help increase their visibility and get their work out there using their name, image, and likeness. So, folks, that will do it for us here today in episode 5 of the Jimmy O Show. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you to Kelly for joining us and for providing all the information he provided. Welcome to I'm in transition here. I'm moved down the hall in my office, so nothing's hung up yet. You can see, if you look really hard, you can see the Post-it notes of what's going to go where. So temporary space, but it's all good. I'm happy to be here and happy to be with you. And thank you to Bradley Schneller for his production here and his work going forward. And everyone, we look forward to seeing you next week with our next player guest. Roll Wave.